So today we are doing our last set of notes for this week. We are going to take a little break, review Thursday, Friday. We'll do an additional review when you guys come back after the weekend. You'll have a quiz on Tuesday, so be ready. But this is the last new material that will be on that quiz, okay? So today is all about complementary and supplementary angles. Here are the definitions for those things. Complementary angles are angles that add to 90 degrees. And supplementary angles are angles that add to 180 degrees. Now, students get these mixed up sometimes. The way I remember is to just think about alphabetical order. So C comes before S in the alphabet. That's the smaller one. So alphabetical order, the first one would be C, that's the smaller one. Second would be S, that would be the bigger one. Okay? Yes. And then these are just the special angles. So two angles that make a right angle, that's how we get the 90. Two angles that make a straight angle, that's where the 180 comes from. So that's why these are the important numbers. All right, so just finish those definitions up, and then we'll keep moving. So we are going to decide, I got the giggles today. We are going to decide if these are complementary, supplementary, or neither. Complementary means they add to what? I don't know why I'm laughing. Okay. Complementary adds to what? No. 90. Supplementary adds to what? 180. Wow. I don't know. Okay, so basically you're given two angles. If they add to 90, you say complementary. If they add to 180, you say supplementary. So if they make a right angle, complementary. If they make a straight angle, supplementary. If they make any other type of combination, when you add them together, nothing. All right? 22 plus 158. Let's add those together.
180.
Yes. When they add to 180, what are they called?
Straight angles.
They're called supplementary. But yes, I agree that this is a straight angle.
Can we just put
but they're called supplementary. No, absolutely not.
I have the giggles.
You got the giggles too? I got the giggles. I feel like you might be making fun of me, but it's cool. It's cool. All right, any questions? Go to the next one. Oh, look at that. The answer pops up. All right, number 2. Same idea. We're going to add them together. If you get 90, we're going to say complementary. If you get 180, we're going to say supplementary. If you get some other random number, neither.
Neither.
What do you get when you add these?
Neither. 100.
You get 100.
So that's me.
Here it is. Look at the magic work. Just pops right up there. Yeah, so that's 100. Nothing special about a 100-degree angle. So that's a neither.
But we have to do the work.
No, you can just do it in your head. All right, number 3. 55 degrees plus 35 degrees is what? 55 plus 35 is what? 90. And 90 degrees makes these... Complementary, good. Just so you know, when two angles are complementary, they're also called complements. So if you wanted to say these angles are complements of one another, that would work as well. Question.
No, ma'am.
No. Got it.
What if 55 is 35?
All right.
Complementary.
Next, this says, find the measure of the complement. So we just talked about what that word means. Complement is what angle would be complementary with this angle. So basically, what angle would you add to this angle to make a 90-degree angle? Then we're going to find the supplement. So what angle would you add to this angle to make a straight angle or a 180-degree angle? So you could write an equation for this. Some people prefer that. That's not really how I do it. I think it's easier just to say, where am I trying to get to? What do I already have? So I'm trying to get to 90 degrees. I already have 76 degrees. What do I need to do?
Add 14. We'll subtract.
Subtract them. So 90 minus 76. What do you get?
14.
14 degrees is the complement. All right? And supplements or supplementary angles add to what?
180.
180. So now I'm going to start at 180 and I'm going to subtract 76. And now what do I get?
186.76. Shut up, boy. It's 104. 104.
104. Just wondering how long it's going to take me to edit out that part of my video. I ain't got time for that. All right, what are your questions on number 4? Okay, number 5. All right, complements add to. Complements add to.
Add to what?
90. So to find the complement of 37, I'm going to start with 90. I'm going to take away 37.
11, 30.
Quit answering if you're not going to answer seriously.
53. Yeah, 50.
There you go. Supplementary angles or supplements add to what?
180.
180. So 180 minus 37?
143.
143. Good. Raise your hand if you have any questions.
Wait.
We are good. There you go. All right, you tell me.
Wait, state answer?
32 minus 9.
30, other way. Come on. You're not going to get a negative answer. 90 minus 32. 58 is correct. Talking about angles to put a degree symbol. So do it again, but now start at 180 because they're supplements. 148. Perfect. What are your questions?
No questions, Steve.
All right, next topic. We are looking at adjacent angles. So there is a place in your notes for you to write this definition. Adjacent angles, it's right below 4, 5, 6. It's in bold. There's a blank. It says adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are angles that share a common vertex and side. So the ray that's in the middle of the two angles is in both angles. That makes them adjacent angles. Adjacent basically just means right next to each other. All right, so example 7 says determine whether the angles are adjacent or non-adjacent. So these are right next to each other. I'll give you that. But do they share a side? No, they don't. These are non-adjacent. It has to be like the same ray in both. So like if these were adjacent, it would look like that. That's not what's happening here. There's room in the middle. So these are non-adjacent. Correct. Number 8. They're adjacent. They share a common vertex. It is here. And a common side. It is here. So these are adjacent. Do you have any questions? Number 9. These are non-adjacent. They might look adjacent, but they're not because they have a shared vertex, but there's no side that's in both. Okay? Like number 5 has this ray as a side, 6 has it's not the same ray. So, non-adjacent. Any questions? We are not done. We have one of my favorite theorems next. Just buckle up. The congruent complements theorem. Go ahead and write this down. I'll talk about it in a second.
Where do I have to put the diagram?
In a while. I mean, that's a really good theorem as well, but this one's pretty. This is our focus for today. So, the congruence complement theorem says that if two angles are complementary to the same angle, they're congruent to one another. What does it mean to be complementary? Complementary, they add to 90. So I'm going to show you this real quick. If you want to write this in your notes, I know you have space. So basically what this is saying is the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2, if they're complements, would have to add to 90, right? Now, this theorem is saying... Hi, need you to quiet down. Thanks. Okay, so 1 and 2 are complements. That means their measures add to 90. Everybody's still with me? Okay, in this scenario that's on the board, angle 3 and angle 2 are also complements. So this theorem says that if two angles are complementary to the same angle, they must be congruent to each other. So looking at the two equations we just wrote, angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary. Angle 3 and angle 2 are complementary. Do you see how angle 2 is equal to itself? It's angle 2. Do you see how 90 and 90 are equal?
Yes.
So what's the only thing left?
The
Angle 1 and angle 3. Angle 1 and angle 3 would have to be the exact same thing in this scenario if they're both complementary to angle 2. That is all this theorem is saying. And you can take that out and replace it with like a number. So let's say that I told you that angle 2 was 50 degrees. So I'm just going to take 50 out, or the measure of angle 2 out, and I'm going to put 50 in instead. Just for fun. What would the measure of angle 1 be? 40. What would the measure of angle 3 be? 40. See how they're equal?
Yep.
Okay, great. Let's take this out. Instead, let's say this one's 80 and 80. What would angle 1 be?
10.
What would angle 3 be? Do you see how no matter what I make angle 2, as long as they're both complementary to angle 1 and angle 3 and angle 3 have to be the same, right? Does this make sense? It's kind of tricky. But if you take out the angles and put in actual numbers, it makes a little more sense. We'll look at another example here. Go ahead and write this one down. It's the same thing, except now it's the supplements. All right, so this is saying the same thing. If two angles are supplementary to one another, they have to be congruent. If two angles are supplementary to the same angle, they have to be congruent to each other. So, for example, I won't write out the equations in this one, but let's just look at 4, 5, and 6. Let's just make it easy. Let's say that angle 5 is 100 degrees. See how these make a straight angle?
Yeah.
If I like smushed them all together? So what would angle 4 have to be? 80. We'll see how if I smush these together, these would make a straight angle. So this one would also have to be 80, right? 80 and 80. So 4 and 6 would have to be congruent if they're both supplementary to angle 5. Okay? And just like we were looking at earlier, if you would change this to like, let's say 110, these would both be forced to be 70 and 70. If you change this to 120, these would both be 60 and 60. So no matter what you change angle 5 to be, as long as it's supplementary to both 4 and 6 have to be the same as one another. Everybody got it?
Wait.
You didn't have to write down all this. This is just me rambling. Okay, so this is saying that if the measure of angle 4 and the measure of angle 5 equal 180, and the measure of angle 6 plus the measure of angle 5 also equal 180,
That's true, right?
yeah, then these two would have to be the same. Because look, these are the same, these are the same, these two would have to be the same as well.
So it couldn't be like that because they're not the same, or it's saying it has to be.
They are going to be the same. We're saying that no matter what, these have to be congruent if they both add to angle 5 and make a 180.
Okay.
So like if angle 5 is 100, they're both 80. If angle 5 is 90, they're both 90.
So like on the test, like on the homework sheet, it will give us the number, like it will give us like.
Oh, I'd have to double. There's a few ways these could be presented. It could just say like these are both supplementary to angle 5. What do you know about the angles? Or it could give it to you with actual numbers in there. All right. So like here's one example. Example 10 says that angle 7 and angle 8 are supplementary, and angle 8 and angle 9 are supplementary. Name the pair of angles that must be congruent.
7 and 9.
7 and 9. Good. So you just say angle 7 is congruent to angle 9. And my reason would be just actually the theorem.
That's not an L, girl. L don't go that way.
What did I do?
L's do go that way.
Girl.
L's do, 7s don't. Boom. All right. Sorry. I was thinking in my head of writing an if-then statement, and I think I started writing the word if. Anyway, thank you. So angle 7 and angle 9 would have to be congruent if they're both supplementary to angle 8. The reason is what we just wrote down. If two angles, and we can shorten it, are, I'll even just put sup to the same angle, then they are congruent. Do you guys remember the symbol for congruent? I just used it up above. It's like, yeah, it's like an equal sign with like the little Spanish tilde thing up top. That's what it always makes me think of. I don't speak Spanish, I don't know. Yeah, I wish I could do that. All right, what are your questions? Number 11. Here's another. Ooh. Oh, I can't go back. Can you get it from somebody? Addison will show you in a minute.
11 and 12. 11 and 12.
I did not do that.
What are you doing? Oh, goodness. All right, so very similar to the last one, except in this scenario, they're not supplementary. They're complementary because they add to 90. Okay, so since they both add to 90 with angle 11, they have to be congruent to each other. So angle 10 is congruent to angle 12. And our reason is that theorem we just wrote down. If two angles are complementary to the same angle, they're congruent to each other. Any questions?